Okay, guys, we're going to continue with activity 7 today with day 2 of factoring. Today we're going to be factoring trinomial expressions. So get out that same note sheet, something to write with, and a calculator if you need it. Okay, so today we're going to be looking at trinomials, which a trinomial just means it has 3, that's where we get the tri from, 3 terms. So like ax squared plus bx plus c. So the steps in here kind of walk us through what we have to do, but I'm going to go ahead and do some problems just kind of straight from top to bottom. But the main thing we want to start with now, we're not going to really use number 1 yet until we start solving. But step 2 says to rewrite the polynomial so it's in descending order, meaning the x squared term comes first, then the x, and then your constant last. Okay? So the way we factor these is we make this x method. Okay? And in the top, we're going to multiply the first term times the last term, and that's what goes on the top of my x. Okay, the middle number is what's going to end up going on the bottom of my x. So this middle number of -5, that goes in the bottom. Okay, and then you have to figure out two numbers that multiply to the top number, but add to the bottom number. And that's going to be kind of our setup for these. So I'm just going to go through, you guys can read through these steps if you want, but I'm just going to go through some problems where I actually just do it with you, and then hopefully you'll get the hang of it. Okay, so we have our trinomial. It's in the correct order, so I'm going to go ahead and set up my x. So we start by taking the first term times the last term. We call that our a times c. So 10 times 3, that's 30. That goes in the top of my x. The middle term goes in the bottom, so 11. And it's positive 11 because it's a plus there. So now we need to think of two factors that multiply to 30, but add to 11. So take a second and think about what two numbers can multiply to 30, but add to 11. Okay, well, hopefully you said that 6 and 5 are going to work for that. 6 times 5 is 30. 6 plus 5 is 11. Okay, so here's how we set up the problem. The first term is going to stay the same, 10x squared. But what we're going to do is we're going to take this middle term and we're going to split it. Okay, so we're going to change 11x. We're going to use our x numbers to do that. So instead of 11x, I'm going to split this into 6x and a 5x. So all we kind of did was undo this problem a little bit. If I combine those like terms, I will get back to 11x. So again, we're kind of undoing the problem there. We're splitting that middle term. Now this gives me a 4-term polynomial that we learned how to factor yesterday by grouping. So if I look at my first group, I have a 10x squared and a 6x. Well, I can take out a 2 from each of those numbers and an x from each term. If I take out 2x from each, that's going to leave me with, well, 10x squared divided by 2x is going to leave me with 5x. Bring down the plus sign. 6x divided by 2x, that's going to leave me with just a 3. I'm going to bring down my sign in the middle. And then in my second group, we have a 5x plus 3. Now, they don't have anything like obvious in common as a common factor. But remember yesterday I told you how everything can at least have a 1 in common, a factor of 1. So if I divide that out, it's not going to change the numbers because you're just dividing by 1. But if we look at this now, our parentheses match like we want. So my parentheses match, so I'm going to bring one of those down. And then I'm going to get my loners, my outside numbers, to give me my other factor. So that's how you factor a trinomial. Okay, so we set up the x to help us split the middle term. Once it's written in a split form, we have 4 terms. We can go ahead and group, like we did yesterday, and get our final answer. Okay, now again, these factors can be written in different order, but if you ever wanted to check your answer, you could just FOIL it back together and see what you get. Okay, let's do another one, and we're just going to go through number 2. So in number 2, I'm going to take my first term times my last term. So 2 times 21, and that goes in the top of my x, so 42. In the middle, we have -13. So we're going to have to play with kind of our signs here because it's going to be a little tricky. We need numbers that multiply to positive 42, but add to a -13. So think about two numbers that could work for really quick. Positive 42 and -13. Okay, so 6 and 7 are going to multiply to 42 and add to 13, but in order to get it to be a negative sum but a positive product, we'd have to make these both negative. So -6, -7 would multiply to a positive, but add to a negative. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and split my middle term. So the first term stays the same, but we're going to split this -13 into -6x minus 7x. Now, in the future, just so you know, you can write these two middle terms in either order as long as you have them both there. Same thing about your x. You can have those in either order. It doesn't matter. Okay? And just make sure you have the correct numbers. So now I have 4 terms. I'm going to go ahead and group this. So 2x squared and a 6x. What can I take out from those? I can take out a 2x. They have a 2 in common and 1 x in common. So if I take out 2 from 2x squared, I'm just going to be left with 1x minus a 3. 6x divided by 2x leaves me with just a 3. Bring down my sign in the middle, and now let's look at my second group. 7x plus 21. So I can pull out a 7 from each of those. And remember, when you pull out a 7, you're technically taking out a -7. So -7x divided by -7 gives me positive x. 21 divided by -7 gives me a -3. That makes my parentheses match, which is what I want. So I take my parentheses, they match, so we only need one of them. Then my other factor comes from the outer numbers, the 2x and the -7. We put those together. And there is our factored form. Okay. So I followed the steps that were on this, kind of the top of this page here. So you feel free to go through those and see what I'm talking about, but all I do is set up my x, find the numbers that multiply to the top value, add to the bottom value, and then split the middle term and group. Okay, so maybe I'll do one more on this next page, 1 or 2 more. So let's maybe I might do 3 and 6. Okay, and then there's other ones there in case you guys want to practice some more. So let's look at number 3. I'm going to set it up. So I'm going to take 3 times 4. That goes on the top. So 3 times 4 is 12. The middle term goes in the bottom. So that goes 8 in the bottom. So I need 2 numbers that multiply to 12 but add to 8. So take a second. What 2 numbers multiply to positive 12 and add to positive 8? So hopefully you said 6 and 2. So that means I'm going to split this middle term. Instead of 8x, I'm going to rewrite this as 6x plus a 2x. Everything else, though, stays the same. So I'm going to bring down that 3x squared. I'm going to bring down this 4. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and group now. So this first group, we have 3x squared and a 6x. So I can take a 3 out, and I can take 1x out. That's going to leave me with x plus 2 left over. Down the sign in the middle, which is a plus. And then in my second group, I have 2x and a 4. So if I take that out, I'm going to have, let's see, I can take a 2 out from each of those. That's going to leave me with x plus 2, which is what I want to make my parentheses match, x plus 2's. So final answer, my x plus 2's, they match, so I only need one of them. And then my other answer I get from my outer terms, 3x plus 2. Okay. All right, I'm going to go and just finish one more here. I'm going to do number 6 because I'm going to talk about what do we do when there's not a number in front to set up your x. So remember, you can always technically have a little imaginary 1 in front. So I would just take 1 times 56 and put that in the top. So 1 times 56 is just 56. In the bottom, I would have to add to 15. So again, multiplies to 56, adds to 15. So that would be, let's see, 7 and 8. 7 times 8 is 56, and 7 plus 8 is 15. All right, so again, we split the middle term. So instead of 15x, I'm going to have 7x and an 8x. Everything else is just going to come down. So the x squared and the plus 56. Now I'm going to go through this grouping a little faster since we've already done a few. But I can take an x out from x squared and a 7x. That's the only thing they have in common. So if I take out 1x from each term, that's going to leave me with x plus 7. down my sign in the middle. My second group, I have an 8x plus 56, so I can take an 8 out of that. So 8x, if I take the 8 out, I'm just left with x. 56 divided by 8 is 7. My parentheses match, so I must have done it right. So bring down one parenthesis in your answer. My other factor comes from my outside numbers, so that x plus 8. Okay, so there you go. So I'm going to have you guys maybe try number 5. Okay, so try number 5 and see what you get. See if you can find the factors that work for that. Split the middle term, and then go ahead and group that one. Okay, so if we did it correctly, let's see, we'd have negative 30 on top and negative 7 on the bottom. So factors that would work would be 10 and 3. But in order to add to a negative 7, we'd have to put the negative with the negative 10. So that becomes 6x squared minus 10x plus a 3x minus 5. Again, your order might be different, so your work might be a little different, but in the end, we should get the same answer. Again, I'm going through this one kind of fast since you already did it. The only thing I can take out of that second factor is a 1, because they don't have anything else in common. My parentheses match, so 3x minus 5 is a factor. 2x plus 1 is a factor. Okay, so that is how we factor trinomials. If we have 3 terms, we set up our x so that we can split the middle term. And then once we have our middle term split, that's when we can go ahead and group it like we did yesterday. Okay, so we'll practice more trinomials together in class tomorrow.